Hello class and welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to show you two different ways in which you can extrude polygons from an object in Cinema 4D. So, let's begin. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to solve a question that one of my students asked me. So he's taking my 3D robot modeling course that I have on Udemy. And he says that when he extrudes a polygon, the polygons surrounding it get deformed. And that should not happen. When you make a polygon extrusion, the only polygons that will be modified are the selected polygons. So in order to answer this question, I'm going to show you the two main different ways in which you can make extrusions in Cinema 4D. And I'm also going to tell you which one you should use. So for this example, I'm going to use this 3D watch that I'm making for another course. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is to select one of these pieces here. So I'm going to make sure that I select this one, and I'm going to make a copy. And I'm going to hide the rest of the watch. Now I'm going to select this object, and I'm going to apply a new subdivision surface object to it. And I'm going to rename this one. So this is going to be the first option. I'm going to make a copy of this object, and I'm going to rename it, because we're going to use this one for our second example. Now I'm going to move this one to the right, so they are separated. And I'm going to start with the first object. So I'm going to make an extrusion. And for that, I'm going to go to the polygon mode, and I'm going to select those polygons at the front, including these other ones here, like that. Then I'm going to press letter D to bring the extrude tool, and then I'm going to make a tiny extrusion. And I'm going to use these arrows here, and I'm going to move these new polygons that I created with the extrusion. And keep in mind that you can always change the coordinate system over here, just in case that these arrows are not pointing on the correct direction. Alright, so this is the extrusion that we created. Now, as I said, there are two ways in which we can create these extrusions. Now, to make this extrusion better, I'm going to go to the edge mode. I'm going to use the ring selection tool, select all of those edges, and I'm going to use the Edge Cut tool, and I'm going to increase the number of subdivisions, and I'm going to apply it. Maybe a little bit less. Like that. That should work. And you can see that this extrusion looks really nice. It looks really clean, and it works really well. Now let's go to the other object, and we're going to try with the second method. So I'm going to go to the polygon mode, and I'm going to select the exact same polygons that we selected on the previous object. And now this time we're going to make our extrusion in a different way. So let's press D to bring the extrude tool again, and this time we know how long we have to make this extrusion. So I'm just going to click and drag all the way until this is the same size as the other extrusion. And you can see the problem already. This extrusion looks really bad. So I would have to try to correct it. So I'm going to shrink it down using the scale tool, like so. And I'm just going to make sure that this is about the same size as the other one. But as you can see, this doesn't look good at all. It looks really bad. Now let's do the same that we did with our previous extrusion. So I'm going to go to the edge mode, and I'm going to select all of those edges. I'm going to use the Edge Cut tool, and I'm going to apply the same subdivisions. Now let's see the two of these objects together. And as you can see, the one on the left looks much better than the one on the right. And that is because of the extrude method that we used. Now let's turn off the subdivision surface objects, and let's change the display mode. So here you can see the different polygons, and you can see that the topology for the object on the left is much cleaner from the one on the right. And you can see that the polygon distribution is also better on the object on the left. So now the question is, which of these two different methods should you use? And the answer is actually both. So depending on the situation, you will sometimes have to use the first method, and other times you will have to use the second method. So I recommend you to practice both of these methods, and when you know how to use them, you will know exactly which one is better depending on what you want to do. Perfect. So now let's go back to our first question. And as you remember, my student said that when he extrudes a polygon, the polygons surrounding it get deformed. So I'm going to show you why I think that this happens. So what I believe that was the problem with my student is that he just selected the polygons, he loaded the extrude tool, and he moved the polygons without making an extrusion first. So I'm going to show you how it works. So to do that, I'm going to select this object again, and I have this polygon selected, which are the same polygons from the other side. I'm going to load the extrude tool with letter D. I'm going to make a tiny extrusion, and you may not notice it, but the extrusion is already there. I made it, but sometimes I make those extrusions really small that you cannot see them. And now I'm going to move those polygons like so, but take into account that I had made the extrusion first. And it was really small, and that's why it was a little bit hard to see. Now let's go to the other object and let's select the same polygons. Like so. Now let's press D to load the extrude tool. And this time I'm not going to make any extrusions. I'm just going to load the extrude tool, and I'm going to select the handle and move the polygons. And as you can see, this is not the same because I didn't make the extrusion. And if you take a closer look, you can see that on the object on the left, we have those edges there. And on the right, we don't have those same edges because we didn't make the extrusion. And that is the problem that I think that my student was making when he was modeling the robot. And I really understand if you are making the same mistake, because in other 3D applications, you don't need to make the extrusion first. In other software applications, all you have to do is to select the polygons, then load the extrude tool, and then move the handles. And when you move the handles, that automatically makes the extrusion. So if you're making that mistake, don't worry, because now you know how to do it properly. And that's all for this lesson. I hope that you learned something useful, and I will see you in the following lesson.